Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Richard, and welcome back to a stock market outlook video sponsored by MarketSmith. And in today's video, we'll talk about the indexes, leading stocks, my previous watch list, and how it performed last week, sentiment, the IBD Big Picture article, really the whole 9 yards. If you do enjoy my analysis at any time, go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Diving in, let's start with the Nasdaq Composites. Overall, we did not finish strongly. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. And on this day, we basically finished on the lows, but we held above 14,000, and we're still above a rising 21 and 50 SMA. And I'm sure people are drawing in this line at about 14,200 and calling this a triple top. Obviously, that remains to be seen, but so far this does seem pretty normal. We're holding above this low in 14,000, and we had basically increased almost 8 days in a row. So I think some consolidation is actually healthy and warranted. But obviously, we have to stay above the 21 and 50 SMA next week on the Nasdaq, and ideally above this low on Thursday and Wednesday's low as well, the upside reversal. So that would be healthy action, just kind of chopping sideways for a few days and then a challenge of these highs. That would be great, but we'll see what happens next week. Now going over to the S&P 500, this looks a little bit worse. Let me X this out here. This finished below the 50 SMA and 21 EMA, so it's interesting how this has been leading for such a long time and looking better than the NASDAQ, but now the NASDAQ has kind of taken over a little bit as a leader in the market. But overall, this does not look good. Obviously, the volume is inflated due to quad witching, so keep that in mind. But the price action was not great, and we saw a lot of kind of sectors that have been doing well, such as financials, take a big hit late last week due to the Fed's announcements. So this index does not look great. The expectation really is downwards, but we'll see if we can kind of recover and form a higher low here and maybe undercut and reclaim the 50 SMA. Going over to the IWO, this is the kind of growth index, the 2000 Russell 2000 growth. This looks a little bit stronger than S&P, but it's still not really showing a lot of strength, just barely below a declining 50 SMA and below 21 EMA, I believe. And ideally, it would retake the 300 level next week and challenge this kind of swing high here set on the 14th or so, and then challenge this high here and then make its way towards the top of this consolidation. But it does look stronger than IWM, the overall 2000 ETF, which similar to the S&P 500 really didn't do well last week and undercut the 50 and 21 EMA on high volumes. So growth at this point is doing a little bit better, but there are some warning signs with the overall market contained in this ETF as well as the S&P 500. So with the main indexes covered on MarketSmith, let's go over to potential new leadership and tap through here and sort by that weekly change. So overall, ASAN continues to really outperform, breaking through this base high and really strong volume coming in as well. Great closing ranges. This looks great. Obviously, it's short-term extended, so I wouldn't mind some inside days, maybe a slight pullback here and let the moving averages catch up. But this looks really, really strong. Shop as well, strong off this kind of shorter term consolidation breakout near 1,280, and nice volume coming in as well as it makes its way towards all-time highs. And like ASAN, I wouldn't mind some consolidation here, a handle here before an attempt at this breakout. GLBE just basically going up in a straight line, a super powerful IPO, looks great, but obviously very short-term extended. MDB also powerful off the bottom of this base. Really strong here after this move up and kind of low cheat breakout here. Looks very strong. SPT also moving up strongly into new all-time highs last week. Nice volume coming in on the breakout. CRCT, nice breakout from this consolidation against the 21 EMA. Nice volume coming in on this Friday as well. DocuSign remains very strong here, really ignoring any kind of weakness in the overall indexes and just performing after this earnings gap up on huge volume. It really hasn't pulled back more than 1 or 2 days. So I wouldn't be surprised if right at this point here we see some consolidation, at least maybe a few days as well, and then a challenge of this pivot and potentially a challenge of these all-time highs as well. This has been basically basing for 6, 7, 8 months or so. So I wouldn't be surprised if we finally get a strong move out of this kind of sideways trendless chop. So that is DocuSign. And moving on, we've got Net, nice breakout last week. Very strong volume as well. A lot of pocket pivot volume signatures. You do have a kind of shorter term consolidation within the base, double bottom pivot here at around 88 or so, but this looks very strong. As I said, really nice volume. App, another recent IPO, acting really well. QFen, nice trend above the 21 and 50 SMA, looks strong as it goes into new all-time highs. CrowdStrike challenging potentially this base pivot next week if it falls through here. But once again, pretty short-term extended. Ideally, you're buying this near 227 or even these pivots within this kind of handle here during this week. So that is Crowd. ZS also strong within that sector. NVIDIA trending nicely, but you do have a downside reversal bar on very high volume on this Friday. So it may be time for it to pull back here, form a structure above 700. FRHC, nice strong move, but a big downside reversal here, although this was very quick in the morning. So we'll keep that in mind, and some nice tight action to end out the week. So maybe it will be building out a handle here before really challenging these all-time highs here, and you can just kind of ignore this, but that remains to be seen. SE, nice move here towards the top of the base, making some price new highs here on Thursday and Friday. DEN still just trending beautifully above the 21 and 50 SMA. Looks fantastic. SBLK also above those two key moving averages, but not the strongest action on Thursday and Friday. VSTO forming a little bit of a flag here above this base breakout here. Nice support bar on this Thursday. And then a little bit of fall through, not a 2-2 reversal because it didn't close above this high, but a nice move nevertheless on this Friday. Ford, nice strong action pulling back to the 21 EMA on pretty low volume here. You do have a spike here, but we'll see how this acts. This is a pretty good breakout on volume, and this is the first pullback to the 21 EMA after that strong breakout. ASO trending above the 21 and 50 SMA looks strong. ZIM maybe forming another flag here from about 47.46 to a low of about 40 or so. So I wouldn't mind the 50 SMA kind of catching up to price and then potentially another leg up during this IPO advance phase. But this has come quite a long way in just basically 5 months or so. Basically 270%, a really strong move from that IPO. And finally, we've got Roblox pulling back to the pivot. Not the greatest action here on this Wednesday. Gap down on very high volume, kind of a closed mid-level. So I want to see it kind of hold this 50 SMA and push through this level on above average volume. So that's a quick run through of potential leadership. Let me know what stocks I should add to this list and take off as well. So with that said, let's talk about the stocks I was focused on this week and sort by that weekly change. We did have more red ones this week, especially because of the late market weakness to end out the week. But we did have some strong moves from LSPD breaking out of this kind of short-term handle within the base. We'll watch this for some fall through these highs. DocuSign, we already covered, very strong. NVIDIA strong as well. UBSD holding the 50 SMA so far, but we'll see what happens here against the confluence of that key moving average as well as this pivot right here near 122 or so. ABNB, nice move up off the 21 EMA and just closed above this kind of anchored view out from the recent highs. So we'll see how this acts next week. It does have to challenge the declining 50 SMA, which potentially was resistance on this Friday. Snap, still having trouble with this kind of 65 level path, still just building out a flag below this kind of, or within the range of this earnings response bar on the 10th. Peloton still just going sideways here, back above all the key moving averages. RH finding support a little bit at the 50 SMA and 21 EMA, but I do want to see a quick move up here and a break above these highs. And you do have it kind of closing well off the highs on Friday. AMAT really broke down here. This doesn't look great. LRCX is faring a little bit better. It had an upside reversal, but this looks like it needs a little bit of time here. A break through the key moving averages on above average volume. KRNT, nice action here, basically flagging out here, forming a little bit of a handle below this all-time high. So this could be on your radar for the next week. And this pullback, even though they are red days, are pretty much on below average volume. EDR basically just leaking downwards, doesn't look great. RS line also declining. Roblox we talked about, and BGFE pulling back all the way to the 50 SMA. So we'll see how it acts here. If this provides support, or if this is just kind of the start of a further decline. So that is how my watch list performed. A nice action from LSPD, DocuSign, NVIDIA, and we'll see what happens next week with my next list of ideas. So moving on, let's talk about sentiment from a few different sources. We see a big drop in my sentiment surveys on Twitter from 65.8% bullish, now 50.5% bullish. So that's a very big drop, which is actually encouraging given the pretty much sideways action last week. So I think that's pretty good. Looking at the bulls versus bears poll, this slightly declined to end out the week, but still is reasonably high, although nowhere near 60 at this point. Looking at the put call ratio, this is actually increasing, so that's a good sign. And look at the name exposure next. This is back to near 100, so this is kind of pullback territory, so keep that in mind. So overall, in terms of sentiment, a little bit overheated, but we do see some signs of fear coming into the market with the put call as well as the sentiment survey. So talking about the IBD Big Picture article, the headline is S&P 500 falls below the 50-day line, why investors must turn cautious on the stock market. And overall, they discuss how the Nasdaq is kind of caught up to the S&P 500 given its recent weakness here. They talk about the kind of thin leadership here, and also they talk about how they've lowered their stock market outlook to uptrend under pressure. And they discuss how they've added some distribution days and how the S&P 500 and Dow Jones are below their 50-day moving averages. They talk about how the Fed has impacted things, but you do have some standouts, DocuSign, CRCT, from the IBD 50 as well as Hubs. So overall, their current outlook is an uptrend under pressure with 5 distribution days on the S&P 500 and 4 on the Nasdaq. Lastly, we've got the Wishbone blog, and overall, the GMI signal is still green since May 26th, and on Friday, the GMI score was a 6 out of 6. So overall, taking everything into account, my current view is still an uptrend, but you do have to be cautious here. We are seeing major indexes break key moving averages, the 50 SMA. That is significant, but you always have to kind of listen to the leadership stocks, which so far last week had very, very strong moves. And many of these are definitely short-term extended and could use some consolidation, but I'll be watching these very, very carefully for some kind of clues about the overall market health. And if we do see some of these kind of really fail and pull back hard on huge volume, break key moving averages, that would kind of change my mind about the market, and I would become pretty bearish very quickly if that were to happen. But at this moment, still an uptrend in my view. We'll see how these market leaders act next week. And overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you guys in future videos.